everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Kirsten, and for today's video we are going to be recapping my makeup inventory and seeing how I'm doing now. So just to recap, I went ahead and did a video in February of this year, my first makeup inventory on my channel. So I'm going to recap that and we'll go from there and see like how my numbers have changed since then, if my collection has grown or stayed the same or gotten smaller. So for starters, I kind of gave two different numbers in my last video, and I'll do the same in this video because I consider all of my single like powder eyeshadows to be two palettes. So I don't consider each individual single shadow to be one item in my collection because of the way I store them. I store them in palettes and they're in two palettes. So, or I should say they could fit in two palettes. I've actually moved them into smaller palettes now, but that's just to have a more curated color story in each palette, but they fit in two palettes. So I consider them to be two. So if you were to consider my palette with every single shadow being a like one product in my collection, then that would have been 115. And if you consider them the way I do as just being two palettes, that number was 96. So I'm going to consider it 96. We'll be using that number kind of as comparison, but I had 96 products in my collection in February. So I started my channel up again in kind of February, so I didn't really do one in January, but it's been 3 months since then, but we're in the 4th month of the year. But I'm going to consider this like my May inventory because it is at the very end of April. So this is including all of my April purchases, except for one that hasn't come in the mail yet. I'm not going to count that yet because I don't have it, but yeah, that's going to be kind of the end of April check-in or beginning of May, however you want to look at it. So we're going to start and just kind of compare what I had versus what I have now. So starting with primers, I had 5 primers in February and I now have 1. So that's one of the biggest changes I think out of this whole inventory. So in February, I had 2 full sizes, 1 mini, and 2 single-use testers. So I have used up the single-use testers. I have completely used up both of the full-size primers actually, and I decluttered the mini, and I now have 1 full-size primer. So I did purchase 1 full-size primer to replace all of those. So I'm doing pretty well there, I think. Yeah, I could see myself getting another primer, and actually I technically right now have a second primer, but I have to return this one, which I will talk about in another video, but I'm not even counting this because I'm literally going to return this today. It's fragrance related. So anyways, I'm a little bitter about that, but moving right along to foundations, I had 5 foundations. I had 4 liquid and 1 powder, and I now have 5 foundations, 4 liquid and 1 powder. So they're not the same. I used up a foundation and I decluttered a foundation to my friend Hannah, and I have purchased 2 new foundations. So that's kind of how that changed, but we still are at 5. Concealers, I had 5. I had 4 full sizes and 1 single-use tester. I used up the tester, well, I used it and then decluttered it. It was terrible. And I had 4 full sizes. So I actually now still have 5. I just have 5 full sizes. So those are the same 4 plus a new full size concealer. Powders, I had 5. I had 2 full sizes and 3 minis. And now I have 3. I have 2 full sizes and 1 mini. So that number has gone down a little bit. Obviously, I have this like written down here, so if I'm looking down, that's why, sorry. But yeah, I have 3 now. I'm happy with that. Powder's honestly just not my favorite step of makeup. I've got 1 pressed powder and 2 loose powders. I could see myself going down to just 1 of each, or maybe flipping that, like 2 pressed and 1 loose. I kind of prefer pressed powders, I think. So yeah, I mean, 3 powders, I'm pretty good with that. So next up, we had 5 bronzers, and I now have 4. I did get rid of the Flower Beauty Heatwave bronzer. It was super like clay-like and orange/red on my skin, so I did not keep that one. Next up is blush. I had 12 blushes, and this is a category that I said I could see myself going down in. I felt like 12 was a little bit much. I had 6 liquid and 6 powder, and I could see myself going down like 1 or 2 in each of those categories. And I did. I actually now have 8 blushes, so I did go down 4, and I'm much happier with that. So I think I've got 5 powders and 3 creams. That's a much better deal for me. I like that a lot more. I could see myself maybe sticking around that 10 mark with blush because I do really like different blush colors. but I do have some blushes and like face palettes and stuff, so I'm fine with that. So for highlights, I actually had 5 highlighters in February and I now have 7. So that's obviously gone up. I also want to mention that I do have the Charlotte Tilbury Bronze and Glow Duo, which I'm kind of consider more of a face palette. However, I do have this Pixie Duo, which I think in my last inventory, I counted this as a face palette, but truly I use this and I dip into both. And so I think of this more as like one highlighter, even though it technically is a duo, I am considering it one highlight for the purpose of like how I see my collection. I don't think it's beneficial for me to make this inventory video based on like being super specific. I think it makes more sense for me to like look at my collection as I think about it, meaning like my single shadows are just 2 palettes and whatnot. So I do have 7 highlights now is what I'm getting at. It's a little bit more, I'm fine with that. I've been really enjoying highlighter lately, so I'm completely fine with that. So next up are those single shadows that we were talking about. So I had 21 like single powder shadows that are in those 2 palettes. I now have 34 palettes or powders because I completely depotted my ColourPop Fame palette, and I haven't reached for it since then, and I'm not sure if I'm going to keep them or not, but I did feel like the packaging was just like messing with my eyes and like not making me want to reach for it. But I think the powders honestly are just like out of their prime. They don't show up very well, so that's why that number jumped up so much. I think I've only bought 2 single shades since then, but it is technically up to 34 versus 21. And as far as like single packaging, not single use, but like, so as far as single shadows that are packaged individually, I had 7 of those. So that includes like Super Shock shadows, liquid shadows, things of that nature. I now have 6, so I did have to declutter one. It was a Super Shock shadow because it was all dried up. Eyeshadow palettes, however, we've gone up a little bit. So I had 8 full-size eyeshadow palettes. I now have 10, so I have added 2 overall. I've decluttered and added, so now we're at 10. And I had 4 quads, and I still have the same 4 quads. As far as face palettes go, I had 4, I now have 3. I think I still have the same because like I said, I think I did include this as a face palette, but I'm just going to consider it a highlight now. So I am down to 3 of face palettes. So liquid lipsticks, I had 4. I still have the same 4. I haven't been purchasing very many lipsticks for obvious reasons with a mask. So yeah, the liquid lipsticks is still the same. Bullet lipsticks, however, I had at 9 and I now have 8. So I did declutter one of those. So we're down 1. Lip glosses, same story. I had 6, I now have 5. So that's looking pretty good to me. Lip liners, I had 4 and I have doubled that. I now have 8, and that is all thanks to the KKW lip liners. I love them, and I bought 4 at the Ulta sale, so I'm fine with that. I'm wearing one today. I almost wear a KKW lip liner every single day. They're just my favorite, and I really like them, so I'm fine with that being an 8. I've got all different colors, and I'm happy with that. So eyeliners was at 7. We're now at 9, so I did open up a eyeliner that I had from a mascara kit. It's a mini, it's the Stila mini. I opened that one up, and I also bought a purple liner, and I didn't have a purple one, so I like that, and I'm totally fine with that number going up as well. Brow products, I had 4 and I still have 4, so I'm totally fine with that. Mascara, on the other hand, this was one that I was not sure how to count. I had 1 open, and I had a bunch of mascaras in a box like tucked away because I had gotten that mascara pack where it was a bunch of minis, and I decided to open some of them. And so when I add this, it kind of, in my opinion, makes it look like I bought 3 more mascaras, but I really didn't. I only bought 1 more mascara this year, so it's kind of like weird how to count that because I've had them since like November or December. But anyways, I now have 4 open mascaras. So I decluttered the one that I used, or I emptied it, I guess, from February. So that one's like no longer, bringing us down to 0. I opened up 3 of the minis that I had in that kit, and I purchased 1. They're all open right now, and I'm using all of them. So I have 4 open right now. So we're gonna count that as 4. Eyeshadow bases, I had 3. I had 2 like regular eyeshadow bases and 1 glitter primer. I now only have 2. I did use up one of those regular primers. So I now have 1 regular eyeshadow base and 1 glitter primer. And the last category is setting sprays. I had 2 and I now have 3. So I did use up 1, purchased 2. So we're back up to 3. So let's get to the total. I know this has been kind of like a quick video. I hope I wasn't moving like too fast. I know for me sometimes with numbers, I'm like, okay, let me think about it, but I tried to kind of keep a steady pace. But anyways, if you count my single shadows separately, which like I mentioned is 34, I have a total of 137, which to compare that to the same kind of number was 115. So that's gone up quite a bit. Again, I depotted the Fame palette, which was about 16 shades. So that's kind of a lot to add. But if we were to just talk about the number where I consider my single shadows to be 2 palettes, that was at 96. We're now at 105. So I am much happier considering that number. I'd like to stay around 100. Same thing like I mentioned in the last video. I'd like to stick between that 90 and 110 mark, somewhere around in there. I, again, always have products that I'm making sure I'm always using. If I'm not, I'm decluttering them. And there's always something like on the list that I'm potentially going to declutter or pass on to someone, is what I mean by that. I try to pass it on to someone who can get better use out of it than me. But right now, like, I'm pretty happy with my collection as a whole. Honestly, I wouldn't mind it getting slightly bigger because I have been doing this no buy or low buy and I'm not doing well at it, and I'm okay with that because I'm noticing that I really do enjoy like purchasing makeup. I just want to make sure that I'm doing it respectfully and not too much, not too intensely, I suppose. I don't want to be over the top purchasing because I do love to use the makeup in my collection. So I want to keep a pretty curated collection overall. So with my total being at 105, I'm totally fine with that. I'd be fine trying a few new things. Like I mentioned, I do have a product coming in the mail, so it's technically going to be one of 6, but I don't have it yet and it hasn't come in the mail yet. So with that being said, I am very happy with my 105 makeup items in my collection. And yeah, so I'm actually really excited to see how this went because I felt like I had added a lot, but I did just recently declutter some makeup to my friend Hannah. I will link that video down below talking about what I was decluttering. And I also have brought in quite a bit new makeup. So I'm very happy to see that I'm kind of still within that range that I had set for myself. I'm very proud of myself for not like over purchasing, and I'm not mad at myself for like breaking my low buy. So yeah, with that being said, that is going to be it for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and seeing how many products I have within my makeup inventory and how it compared to February. I will make another one of these videos in another 3 to 4 months or so, and I'm looking forward to seeing how I do over the next 3 to 4 months. I think that this series is going to be really beneficial for me to just kind of keep track of my spending and my makeup consumption habits, because while I don't buy every product that I have, I'm gifted things like from my husband, not brands or anything, but that can kind of just keep me in check, and I think that this will be, like I said, very beneficial. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.